Yo, this video took way too long to make. So, I know what you're thinking. Endy, didn't you say the previous Iceberg video was going to be the last? And to that I say, yes, I did. And for a while, I intended to stick true to those words. However, there are still some topics related to Garry's mod that I failed to bring up in my last two videos. Plus, I feel like I didn't give the second part a satisfying enough conclusion. Sure, I could turn this into a full-on series and discuss every single little topic I can find related to Gmod, no matter how little information or uninteresting it is, and somehow extend all of it to at least 10 minutes. But honestly, why should I? It's going to get old very quickly, and there's only a finite amount of stuff to talk about before I'm forced to repeat topics I already discussed. In my opinion, keeping this at 3 parts is perfect as is. I know the 2 Iceberg videos are some of the most popular videos on my channel, and I still seriously appreciate all of you for watching and enjoying them, but unfortunately, everything needs to come to a proper end eventually, otherwise it all becomes stale. So one more Iceberg video, for all of you. Now I had to get pretty creative when making the list for this video, since I exhausted every topic I had in mind in the last Iceberg upload. I mean, hell, I had to get creative in that video too. Still though, I think some of the topics that I'll be discussing in this video might interest you. So sit back and relax, cause we're gonna be taking one last dive into the Gmod Iceberg. You ready? Let's do this. TF2 mounting problems. If you have Team Fortress 2 mounted to the game and play on one of the maps, then you'll likely come across these weird looking textures that are not normally in the game. It's not just the maps either. Take a look at the shotgun. The reason this is happening is because certain materials use the same file path in both Half-Life 2 and Team Fortress 2. Half-Life 2 textures have priority over the Team Fortress 2 textures, and so the Team Fortress 2 textures are replaced with the Half-Life 2 textures. To the average Gmod player, this wouldn't be a problem, but if you're an animator, then this can be a glaring issue because, well, look at this. Unmounting Half-Life 2 does nothing, so the only way to fix this is to just subscribe to an add-on that will replace certain textures with the ones from Team Fortress 2. Of course, doing this will result in incorrect textures on non-Team Fortress 2 maps, so just disable it when you're done using it. Gmod realism. This sort of niche trend of videos is where players record themselves playing Gmod with the most immersive add-ons they can find. Not only that, but some of them use probably the most eye-bleeding realistic reshade graphics they can either find or make. The one major problem with these videos is that most of them feel the same. The average Gmod realism video involves the player going to a random location with enemies pre-placed, and then they'll use their tactical looking rifle or pistol to kill them.
How original.
And sometimes they'll use a lean mod.
Daring today, aren't we?
Of course, there are some videos that decide to spice things up, but once you've seen one Gmod realism video, you've pretty much seen most of them. If you like the look of these videos though, then there are tons of collections on the workshop that pretty much accomplish the same thing. I can't give a recommendation though, just find whatever works for you. Arc CW. Pretty much the newest weapon base that recently came out on the workshop. Arc CW is pretty similar to Tifa and custom weaponry, but there are some key differences. For one, pretty much any attachment that you subscribe to on the workshop works with any weapon. No limitations. Second, you can bash at stuff with any weapon by holding down the use key and pressing your primary fire. And third, you have the ability to have the weapons from NPCs be automatically replaced with any Arc CW weapon that you're subscribed to. Honestly, if you're not trying to do some kind of, oh I don't know, Half-Life 2 randomizer playthrough, then these weapons are pretty fun to mess around with. Kitty0706. Colin Wickoff, better known as Kitty0706, was a YouTuber active from 2007 to 2014 that uploaded a variety of Let's Plays, machinimas, and animations. Of course, you all might know him for the many Gmod animations that he uploaded back in the day. Moments with Heavy, Elliot Goes to School, Mass Defect, and the ever-famous Team Fabulous 2. Do they still hold up?
You drive like my fucking grandma, do you know that? I'm going in! Back me up, Vito! Get the fucking back!
Takes more than that to whip me, son.
Absolutely they do, but it's not just in the humor sense. Don't get me wrong, I still find myself dying of laughter whenever I watch these videos, but some of the animations that he pulled off still look really good to this day. He even incorporated some hand-drawn animations in these videos too. It's just unfortunate that this rising YouTuber's career would be cut short, as on January 25th, 2015, Colin would succumb to acute lymphoblastic leukemia after battling it for almost 3 years. He was only 20 years old at the time of his death. To this day, it's still sad to think about how he's now gone, but it's important to remember the impact he left on YouTube and the community as a whole. He was not just a good animator, he was one of the greatest, and nothing will change that, ever. Rest easy, Colin. We will always remember you.
Think fast, Chuckle-Ups!
Liminal space maps. Liminal spaces are a bit hard to describe. According to the internet, a liminal space is the time between what was and the next. It is a place of transition, waiting, and not knowing. Most of the time when I think of liminal spaces, I think of a trend of photos depicting locations that are either uncanny, strangely familiar, or just look off, almost like they're from a dream. One common trait they all share though is that the locations are devoid of life. Time often feels like it's at a standstill. There's supposed to be people here, but there is no one. This is the same phenomenon that I described in my first Iceberg video, though back then, liminal spaces weren't commonly talked about. In the months after that video came out though, there has been an uptick of maps focused on this very topic, and all of them are unsettling in their own ways. All of the traits that describe a liminal space image can be found in these maps. Unnerving surroundings, oddly familiar places, weird architecture that looks like it belongs in a dream, and most importantly, the feeling of being alone in a place that is supposed to be lively. While these maps are pretty great, it's important to recognize that liminality was always a part of Gmod, especially RP maps. However, the difference between then and now is that it wasn't intentional. Maps back then were specifically made to be played with friends. If you take that away though, then you begin to notice how disturbing, weird, and lonely things are, thanks to the lack of other players. If you have the time, I recommend booting up Gmod, load into any of the maps that I've shown in this video, and just explore. Especially do this if you have a VR headset. If you're questioning how you're supposed to do that when the game doesn't have VR support, then don't worry, we'll get to that topic lower down the iceberg. Glue Library. This is an incident that happened in the Gmod community just recently. For those who don't know, on June 2nd, 4 prominent mods on the workshop, Glue Library, View Extension, Action Extension, and Ambient Occlusion were all suddenly updated and replaced with what I can only describe as a goatsy jump scare. For those asking what goatsy is, then, how do I explain this? Imagine a guy grabbing his rectum and then spraying it so far open that you'll be staring into the abyss. I don't think it's the goatsy image, but I'm not gonna go check and verify that fact. Screw you. Anyways, here's what happens when you launch up Garry's mod with any of these 4 add-ons installed. Just know that this demonstration is gonna be highly censored because I don't want my channel taken down. Yeah, I really hope you subscribe to this channel after the eye strain I went through just to record this footage. Things get interesting if you decide to look into the files of these add-ons, more specifically, the Lua file. As you can see, the person who updated these add-ons took the time to leave a, very colorful message towards Steam, Garry, and Gabe. As to be expected, a lot of people were exposed to this, and very quickly, warnings were spread out. YouTubers made videos on it.
It's one of those things that's going to be added to the Gmod Iceberg of we're not really sure.
And the Gmod community does what they do best. Make memes about it. This even inspired a copycat incident with the troll-faced player model, which somehow manages to be worse in every way. Believe me, I can't even play the audio for this one because it's just SpongeBob saying slurs constantly. Now, it's widely believed that the Steam Workshop moderators took all 4 add-ons down. However, when I managed to download them by using a Workshop extractor add-on, don't ask me how that worked, dumb luck I suppose. I looked at the addon.json files and noticed that all of them mentioned that they were set to hidden by the creator himself. I don't know, maybe it says that for every add-on that was removed from the workshop, but that was something I found noteworthy. Now the one thing that's still unsolved to this day is, why did this all happen? Some say that the creator, Isaac McGill, was hacked, while others say that he was angry at everyone mentioned in the Lua file and updated his add-ons as a way to get back at them. Despite what some may say, there's nothing concrete to prove either one is true. For the evidence that he was hacked, if you look at the descriptions from his workshop pages, you can see that they were all written in perfect English. Though after all the add-ons were updated, he suddenly began to speak in broken English. Granted, the original creator is from Russia, but still, most of the hackers on Earth are also from Russia. Believe me, I got my Twitter account hacked by a Russian once. And sometimes there will be dodgy links that are sent around that can completely bypass Steam security, even 2-factor authentication. As for the evidence that this wasn't a hack, well, I found several comments from Isaac's account where he says that he was not hacked and that he was still the owner of all 4 add-ons. Now, to be fair, hackers can very easily impersonate their victims and frame them for any wrongdoings. What can't be explained, however, is that every other social media account that has his name attached to it has been wiped. His YouTube channel, all of the videos were deleted. His PayPal.me link, deactivated. Though PayPal was banned in Russia, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the reason why. His Buy Me a Coffee page, taken down. I think his SoundCloud page? Regardless if it belonged to him or not, it was also taken down. And finally, his Patreon page, gone. If this was a hack, then I don't really see why the hacker would go through the extra effort of hijacking his other social media accounts. Whichever theory you believe in, we'll never know the whole story of what exactly happened unless we hear from Isaac himself. Regardless, June 2nd and June 3rd will remain in history as the days where nearly 40,000 Gmod players wish they haven't launched the game up. Gmod on the news. Now obviously, Gmod has been featured multiple times on news sites, but the main topic I want to focus on is this viral clip right here. The video appears to show a news station by the name of VGCV reporting on the online servers of Garry's mod, along with, "What are your kids playing without adult supervision?" As normal as this topic is, the choice of background footage used for this section quickly turns this news report into a joke. See, the video they used is from one of Jameskey's videos where he opens a pizza shop on an RP server. At the beginning of the video, he is designing a sign that would be used for the restaurant when, out of nowhere, he uses a baby doll prop for one of the pepperoni slices, clearly as a joke. However, the woman speaking in this clip does not find the joke funny, going as far as to say that the shop uses newborn babies as the main ingredient. Of course, if you actually watch the original video, that little tidbit isn't implied anywhere. At the end of the day, this sounds like the average case of the news media not understanding video games, with them thinking all games cause real-world violence or something like that. But the thing is though, this news report is very likely fake news. The original video actually originates from Jameskey's Twitter, with a full quality version of it appearing in another upload of his 3 days later. coupled with the fact that there are no other recordings of this, as well as VGCV not being a real news station, then yeah, it's quite obvious that Jameski was the one who made this. Still though, this did fool some people, including me, because this unironically would be something the news media would put out for Garry's mod. RDM. RDM stands for Random Deathmatch, where it's the act of killing a player for quote-unquote no reason. Most RDMing on Gmod either occurs in Trouble in Terrorist Town or on any RP server. Of course, there are some exceptions for what defines RDM. In TTT, obviously if it's the traitor that's doing the shooting, then that's perfectly okay, as long as they don't kill another traitor. Same goes for the innocents, where if they see a traitor doing something a traitor would do, or in Gen Z terms, acting a little sus, then they're in the right to kill them. In RP servers, shooting someone is acceptable if either your property has a kill on sight sign on it, or you engage in a life or death scenario with another player and they choose death. Of course, there are still gonna be some 12-year-olds complaining about being killed, whether it's justified or not. If it was justified and they double down, then 70% of the time they're getting kicked. If it wasn't justified and you're doing a little bit of trolling, aka mass RDMing, then you get kids like this. Honestly though, admins, why should I get banned for RDMing? RP servers are supposed to mimic real life, so why can't I just roleplay as a menace to society, huh? Yeah, I thought so. The return of Sanic Nextbot clones. As fun as these meme chases were back then, I am kinda glad this trend has died down. Don't you hate it when you speak way too soon? So yeah, in the last few months, the same PNG Nextbots that plagued the workshop in 2016 has recently made a comeback, all thanks to the people on YouTube and TikTok. However, instead of the old oh haha look at the funny poorly drawn character coming after you, now it's being portrayed in a more uncanny, scary vibe. There is still the same chase videos that were prevalent back then, only now they're presented as being more terrifying, with Nextbots such as Obunga chasing the player down in the back rooms, or something similar to that. Even if it's with a shitpost Nextbot, it can still be quite the dreadful experience for the player, as well as the people watching. Other than that though, there's not much to say about this latest trend. The reason being is cause, well, I already talked about this in my second Iceberg video, only now it's more scary instead of stupid silly. Most of what I said already still applies here, minus the whole being dead thing. I kinda feel dumb for saying that now. I don't mind it making a comeback, but comparing it to when it was trending in 2016 to now, you realize it's all pretty similar. What I will say though is that I predicted all of this with my Sanic.png Nextbot. First being featured in a Friday Night Funkin' mod, and now this? You know, forget about what I said on me being dumb. Truly, I am the greatest genius that has ever lived. PH Office. This is a classic prop hunt map made by Akumu, which takes place in, you guessed it, an office-styled building. Each room houses many props for players to try and blend in with if they were playing prop hunt. Despite being medium-sized, this map does have a lot of replayability in that game mode. Now if you're playing alone, then this map gets a bit weird for a few reasons. One, the idea of liminal spaces applies to this map too, since wherever you look, you'll see the scenery of what is supposed to be a lively office building with everything neatly organized, but there is no one. Second, there is no ambience. The only sounds that you will hear are your own footsteps. And third, and probably the strangest one, there are no exits or entrances to this building. You're stuck in there. Now, all of this is very likely unintentional, since the creator did say that this was his first map ever made, but I like to think that the players are just trapped in these rooms, forced to play prop hunt for all of eternity. That is probably the remnants of my first Iceberg's conspiracy freakout still left in me. Nestor G-Man Apparition. I'd say Nestor is one of the more unique maps on the workshop. It's a map that procedurally generates new rooms each time you open a door, with the rooms being random each time. You could pretty much explore this map for hours on end and potentially never find the end of it. No pattern of generations are alike, so if you refresh the map, you'll get something different. Every copy of Nestor is personalized. Get it? Because of the topic of this entry? I'll be honest, maps having an RNG factor to it are rarely seen not just on the Gmod workshop, but in source games in general. It's something that I would like to see explored more, as having an RNG element to a map adds replayability. It'll be fun to play through the same map over and over again and see something new every time. But I'm getting ahead of myself, we're not going to be talking about Nestor. Instead, we're going to be talking about the reported sighting of an entity by a player, which they call the G-Man Apparition. In a thread that was posted by the player, they reported that after seeing the apparition in a red corridor, their game crashed, and once they turned off their PC, it wouldn't turn back on. In the comments, they also attached a screenshot of the supposed encounter, a giant G-Man head shrouded in darkness. As creepy as the screenshot is, this is all obviously fake and likely created as a joke. It's quite obvious that this is a parody of the Wario apparition from the Super Mario 64 Iceberg. They're both giant floating heads, they both do weird things to the game, hell, they both use a similar name. I guess the idea of randomly coming across an entity like this would be pretty scary, but the map is already ambitious enough as is. Even if the creator wanted to, I doubt they will be able to add events like jump scares to a map that randomly generates. Though the mapping community has surprised me multiple times before, so maybe we'll see something like that in the future, who knows. TTT Waterworld is based on a real water park. You know about TTT Waterworld, one of the more classic Trouble in Terrace Town maps? Well, if you didn't know, this map is actually based on a real-life location in Leith, Edinburgh, Scotland, appropriately named Leith Waterworld. This was an indoor water park that first opened in 1992, and it was pretty popular back then due to it being the only indoor water park in Scotland's capital city. According to the people who went to this place, it was a lot of fun, but sadly, you can't visit this location anymore. Well, kind of. Let me explain. On December 22, 2011, Edinburgh Council voted to close the location, citing the need to save funds for the Royal Commonwealth Pool's renovations. This move actually brought some pushback from the local community, as a campaign group by the name of Splashback fought to keep Leith Waterworld open. These efforts would be in vain though, as on January 8, 2012, the water park would be closed down. Not all hope was lost yet, however, as just a year later, Edinburgh Council would agree to work with Splashback in a bid to have the site reopened. The group was funded £125,000 and given until December 2013 to have everything fully planned out. Things were looking up, until just 4 months later when the council would suddenly sell the water park to a private firm for £1 million, effectively pulling the plug and abandoning the whole reopening plan. Despite the community's best efforts, Leith Waterworld would be converted into a soft play area, and to this day, that's where it stands. Honestly, the whole ordeal is kinda sucky for everyone involved. I'm sure there are some people watching this video now who can relate to this story too. You have a location in your local area that is relatively popular with the public. It's also your favorite place to visit during the weekend. Suddenly, after months or even years of it being open, it would then be closed down permanently, despite backlash from the community. Yeah, that would really suck. Luckily for Leith Waterworld though, the location will be recreated in Garry's mod as a playable map, thus keeping the legacy of the pool alive. Lost maps. It's no surprise that Gmod has one of the biggest mapping communities on the internet. The number of map entries extends to over 35,000, and that's just on the workshop, as some of these maps are exclusive to garrysmod.org, GameBanana, or on certain servers. Of course, with the game being out for so long, there are bound to be quite a few maps that are now lost for some reason or another. Maybe the creator wasn't proud of their work and just deleted it, or maybe the map was only found on a server that had to eventually shut down. Unfortunately, most of these maps will be hard to track down as a few people will only recall how the map looked, but not the name or who the creator of it was. For this entry, I'll be discussing 3 examples of lost maps that I found noteworthy, and hopefully some of the information that I'll provide will help ignite searches to find them. The first map that piqued my interest is GM Harvest, and before you comment, please bear in mind that this is completely different from all of the other maps with the name Harvest in it. GM Harvest takes place in a small rural town in the middle of a forest, with the center containing what I think is a fountain. There is a pathway leading out of the town and into a more wooded area, with several cabins and small homes interspersed along the way too. The woods seem to be much bigger in area compared to the town, but it's hard to say for certain since we're only judging by screenshots. What is clear though is that quite a few players have actually been on this map. If you don't know, saves that are uploaded onto the workshop have the associated map tagged on the side of the page. Clicking on the tag will lead to a search of other saves with the same map. This is the case with GM Harvest, as there are 42 different saves associated with it. The first save was uploaded in late 2014, and the last save was uploaded in early 2016, suggesting that this map was up on the workshop for a little over a year, at least. Other than saves, there are 2 videos that feature this map. One of them is an NPC battle, which takes place in the wooded area. The other one, according to this Reddit post, is on the game mode Murder, though I was unable to find that specific video. I have no doubt in my mind that there are many more videos featuring this map, but sifting through the endless Gmod content on YouTube is going to take many months, so no thanks. During my search, I found a pastebin link that was uploaded on August 10th, 2017. It shows what appears to be the player executing the command menu_cleanup GMAs, which removes unused GMA files in the game's add-ons folder. One of these add-ons that was removed was GM Harvest, if only he knew. Now the real important bit that I found on this page is this series of numbers right here. This is actually the workshop ID for the map, which would have displayed in the URL had it stayed up. Unfortunately, that's where I reached a dead end, as there is no archive on the Wayback Machine. I was also unable to find who the creator of the map was, or the reason why it was deleted. The second map that I found interesting is simply called the_pit. Unlike GM Harvest, this map has an entire video dedicated to it, which was uploaded by a German YouTuber. Now, I would show you the video, but after I recorded this part of the script, I found out that the original uploader has privatized it, and there's no re-upload, so damn. This map takes place in an ocean, and in the middle sits a giant pit. The outer concrete edge of the pit has 3 steel beams connected to it, which all extend out into the skybox. Once you reach the pit, you have 2 options of descending down. The first option is to, well, jump in and see how deep it goes. The second option is to use the ladder that connects the few catwalk platforms surrounding the sides. This doesn't get you down that deep, but it's obviously the safer method. If you do decide to jump in, then you'll see that there are several steel pipes cutting through the center of the pit that you'll have to avoid. Once you fall past the last catwalk, the pit turns into a seemingly endless cave-like tunnel with no end in sight. Apparently the fall beyond this point never ends, as you be teleported back up near the start of this pit each time you reach the map's boundaries. Now, there is a screenshot of the map's title and description on the workshop, as well as an approximate upload/update time frame. I have also found the link that was supposed to lead to the workshop page for the map, but just like Harvest, that's where my search ends. There are no archives of the page, no leads on who the creator was, or no reasons given on why the map was deleted. Now, these 2 maps have the most likely chance of being found, either due to someone still owning the original GMA files containing the maps, or by contacting the creator directly. However, this last map that I'll talk about is probably the most obscure by far, and that's TTT Aircraft B2. There is no information on this map other than this now deleted Reddit post. It says that aircraft B2 was removed from the workshop due to a Lua backdoor being found. Specifics on what the map looked like, who the creator was, or what the backdoor did are unclear though. Though according to this reply, serious non-vanilla TTT servers had it in their map rotation. There is a possibility that Aircraft V1B, which is on the workshop, was an earlier version of Aircraft B2, but there is no way of confirming that. So those are 3 lost maps that I found interesting, and hopefully one day they'll all be found and properly preserved online for everyone to experience. Obviously, there are many more examples of maps that people can't find anymore, so if you know of one, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. If there is any that I find interesting, then I'll be sure to give it a heart. The first Gmod video ever uploaded. This might sound brain dead easy, just search up first ever Gmod video in the YouTube search bar. The first result that pops up is improved first Gmod video, which depicts a Rube Goldberg machine trying to kill a Mingebag, and it ends with him getting crushed to death. This was uploaded on June 15th, 2006, and as old as this video is, this is not the first Gmod video ever uploaded, not even close. YouTube has a neat feature where you can search videos before a certain date, and this is going to become very useful for us as that means we can track down the first video of any game. Searching the date before June 15th reveals many other old videos, such as Gmod Combat, Gmod 9.0.4 Spammer, and Sony's 2006 E3 press conference summed up, which is still pretty much accurate to this day.
Genji 2 is an action game which is based on Japanese history. Being based on history, the stages of the game will also be based on famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. So here's this giant enemy crab.
Now all of these videos are nostalgic in their own right, and there is a lot of them, but let's go back even more. Searching before 2006 reveals 2 videos. One of them, titled "A Cool Robot Dude," depicts a player showing off a robot they made, which can walk, attack, and even breakdance. Their words, not mine. This was uploaded on December 28th, 2005, which is very old, but not as old as One Soldier Army. This video is a short stop-motion animation of a rebel shooting down a Metro cop. Side note, what is this map in the background? It kinda looks like Construct, but it's way bigger and some of the landmarks are out of place. If anyone knows, please let me know in the comments. Thanks. Anyways, this was uploaded on November 29th, 2005, nearly a full month before A Cool Robot Dude came out. So is this the first Gmod video ever uploaded? Well, it's likely, but it's hard to say for sure, since the first few versions of Gmod came out way before YouTube was even up and running. Of course, there is also the possibility of there being an even earlier video that used to be up, but has since been removed for some reason or another. As it stands right now though, unless another video that was hidden from the search results is found, One Soldier Army is the oldest Gmod video that can still be publicly viewed to this very day. VR Mod. Now, VR support is not officially a thing in Gmod, at least not yet. Garry, if you're somehow watching this, please add VR support to Garry's mod. That would be very cool. Okay, thanks. The only real method of playing this game in VR is with the help of a workshop add-on called VR Mod, made by Catsy. Setting this up is slightly more complicated, as you also have to run an installer to get it fully working. Just subscribing to the add-on won't cut it. Be sure to disable the Use Desktop Game Theater while Steam VR is active option in the Gmod Properties Steam menu before launching the game. Once you load into a map, open up the console and type in VR Mod to open up the VR Mod menu. If you already have your VR headset of choice plugged in, just hit start and you're good to go. Now, VR Mod is not perfect. For one, all of the weapons still use view models, which is fine, but viewing them from the other side can be Also, the Half-Life 2 weapons still act like they normally do, which, once again, fine, but it can certainly break immersion if you can just reload without moving your other hand. Luckily, there are other workshop mods that fix this. Another problem is that your hands, and by extension, your head, all just kinda clip through the walls, since there are no collisions on them to prevent that from happening. And lastly, don't expect perfect performance from this, especially if you're using a bunch of other add-ons with this. Remember, Gmod relies on your CPU, not your graphics card. If you ignore all of that though, then what you're left with is a playable and pretty immersive Gmod VR experience. I wouldn't exactly know what it's like though, as I don't own a VR headset, at least not yet anyways. 2B2T. Before 2B2T became known as the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft.
The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. The oldest anarchy server in Minecraft. Oh woo.
Housemaster actually used to run a Gmod server under the same name, which funnily enough was also an anarchy server. I guess some things never change, huh? Housemaster founded the server in August 2008 after a friend of his was banned from the Team Fortress 2 server, 2 Fort 2 Furious. The server itself had a pretty bumpy history. There seemed to be some issues keeping the server up and running, as it quite frequently experienced downtimes that would last up to multiple days. At some point in April 2009, Housemaster demoted all 12 admins, possibly due to them constantly breaking and griefing the server, which, yeah, it's an anarchy server, that's the point. This event would cause the group and the server to be raided, with people criticizing House for the sudden move. Regardless of the backlash though, the server continued its run up until September 2010, where it was then shut down by House due to quote-unquote no interest. 2B2T was then moved on to Minecraft, where it became, well, you know,
slave labor.
I'm not going to bother with a recap of 2B2T on Minecraft, so if you're interested, there are plenty of channels that dissect the history of the server. Gunslinger Pro 2009 and Bad Water Videos 2009. The last time I talked about Gmod ARGs, there was only the genre of a spooky dark figure lurking in the darkroom of Construct, and after that point, the trend became oversaturated rather quickly. However, that then led everyone to a new genre of Gmod ARGs that also became oversaturated, which was the idea of ragdolls coming alive. That's what both Gunslinger Pro and Bad Water videos revolve around, and they do it very well. Gunslinger Pro's videos tell the story of the player pretty much torturing the ragdolls, morphing them in horrifying ways, all for the content. The blue spy is shown trying to escape from the player, with one attempt having him break the fourth wall, and another attempt where he tries to flee from the player using a ragdoll walker. Ultimately though, the player does get fed up with him trying to escape, and he gets thrown into the darkroom of Construct in a contorted state. The player seems to be aware that the ragdolls are alive, but doesn't really care. Meanwhile, Bad Water videos tell the story of the player pulling Team Fortress 2 characters from their game and then forcing them to participate in machinimas against their will. There's also this doorway leading into a white void that both the player and the ragdolls can enter, which can take them to different maps. Maybe that's how the player managed to get into Team Fortress 2? The main story revolves around the Red Scout, where in the first upload, he was captured by the player and is now actively trying to escape from said player. There's also a side plot depicting a series of machinimas created by Bad Water, which involved Melon Man in his fight against Dr. Metalhead and his creations Teethaneer and a cyborg soldier, but he was executed before Bad Water could finish the video, so yeah. Like Gunslinger Pro, Bad Water Videos is aware that the ragdolls are alive, but not only do they not care, they also seem to take joy in torturing them. So, just plain evil. The player also seems to bargain the ragdolls into fully moving around for the videos and commit acts of violence, for if they don't do so, they will be deleted. At the time of recording this, the latest video reveals how there are actually 2 scouts in this story, with one scout having to put the other out of their misery. Both of these channels really sell the 2009 to 2010 feel of the videos, and you can really sympathize with these sentient ragdolls. They are forced to participate in whatever the player is working on, and they're tortured for either the sake of content or as punishment for disobeying. In these videos, the main thing we should be fearing is the player. No shadowy figures, just a regular Gmod player like you, potentially, and I. The whole concept of ragdolls being alive was neat. At the time, that is. Like I said, this trend has become oversaturated, with other channels trying to jump in on the bandwagon with, varying results. Still though, if you want to watch a spooky sentient ragdoll ARG that, in my opinion, is really good, then check out Gunslinger Pro, Bad Water Videos, and one other channel that I'm about to get into. Plastic Apple. You might think this is just a copy of the previous 2 channels, just with the Left 4 Dead 2 cast, and for the most part, you'd be right. Though Plastic Apple does tell an entirely different story, and the trope of ragdolls fearing the player isn't applied here. The story revolves around Nick actively rebelling against the player, and eventually, with the help of other ragdolls, successfully manages to overthrow them. It all starts in the first machinima, where Nick is shot in the head. After this point, Nick somehow lives, now being resentful towards the player, with his mind getting more and more corrupted with each upload. He even tries to kill the player. Like, what the fuck, Nick? You know he can just respawn. Anyways, the player is not the only person that Nick has a burning hatred against, but rather, he seems to hold a grudge against the rest of the Left 4 Dead 2 cast as well. See, the other characters are treated more nicely by the player, especially Ellis, where in one of the uploads, he is seen wielding a tool gun. They all seem to like the player, though Nick doesn't have the same feelings, so he intervenes by knocking Ellis out and stealing the tool gun from him. Nick then presumably recruits other ragdolls to help him with his little revolution, which all culminates with Breen bonking the player on the head, knocking them out. The player is then dragged into the dark room. What happens to them next is uncertain, aside from them maybe getting executed, but what is clear though is that Nick now has full control over both the game and the channel. It's apparent that something is corrupting Nick into doing this, but what this something is has yet to be seen. There's also some questions about the player too, as in a good portion of the series, they are portrayed as nice and charming. And the only time they use the fizz gun aggressively is in quote-unquote self-defense, yet Nick is adamant that they are lying. In the description of the first upload, the one where Nick is shot in the back of the head, we can find the date of when it was created. However, in the title of the next upload, the one where Nick tries to attack the player, we can see that it was created a day before the annoying redneck. So what happened here? Did the player intentionally shoot Nick? Was Ellis in on the whole scheme? What happened before that point that caused Nick to try and kill the player? I guess we'll have to wait and see what Nick reveals to us now that he's in control of the channel. Now as for the content itself, man, if some of these videos don't remind you of early 2010s Gmod machinimas, then I don't know what will. The humor is pretty on point too, though sometimes it's a bit unintentional.
Damn shit! No! No!
Overall though, a really solid ARG that I recommend checking out. The Survivor of All. Okay, I know this layer so far has just been me talking about Gmod ARGs, but I promise this is the last one, and in my opinion, this is the most unique one. This ARG takes place during the events of War of the Servers, which, if you don't know, is a long and still to this day impressive Gmod machinima that was uploaded back in 2007. This machinima, which parodies War of the Worlds, tells the story of an invasion from the Mingebags, which they wreak havoc across many different servers in Garry's mod. The players depicted in this story are portrayed as if they're actually a part of the game, with them being able to physically travel across 2 different servers, and if they die, well, they actually die. Now, if this were happening with us gamers, then we would all just log off and wait for the invasion to die down, which would not make for a very interesting film now, would it? Now, in Survivor of All, we can see many similarities to War of the Servers. The Grey Fog, the destroyed GM Construct 9, the contraptions, the ability to travel through different servers physically, etc., etc. The story follows a player who has barricaded himself on an empty Construct server, filming himself and his surroundings on a near daily basis while he waits for the invasion to end. He is also shown to have a tool gun with him, which he unfortunately can't use due to him lacking admin privileges. He eventually has to leave the server due to him running low on food and supplies, as well as him receiving an SOS radio transmission from the city. This leads to him presumably being captured by the Mingebags, and that's where the story ends currently. It's unknown what will happen from here, but I am interested in seeing how this ARG channel will progress. Will the player escape and survive this invasion or what? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The real reason behind the FNAF saves. Believe it or not, there is a reason behind why there are so many Five Nights at Freddy's saves on the workshop. Granted, it's a very dumb reason, but it's a reason nonetheless. See, there is a YouTuber named Xman723 who focuses on content primarily on everything FNAF related. A good chunk of that content is on Gmod, where half of it is just him awkwardly playing out scenarios with the animatronics alone, which can be...
You know what my favorite thing is that the baby's coming! Wait, what? Ugh, god dang it, Sexy Mangle! That's not what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say is my favorite thing is that I always come back. Come on, even you knew that line. How could you mess it up? How did you manage to say the baby's coming instead of I always come back? How did you manage to screw it up that— Wait, the baby's coming?! Oh my goodness, she's about to give birth!
When he is not doing that though, then he is either playing with his friends or checking out the previously mentioned FNAF saves. All of the save videos revolve around him loading up saves and, well, not much really. Just kind of looking around and making commentary as he goes along, including what I think are jokes. This all started in 2019, and apparently these types of videos were popular enough to end up being a series on his channel, as the total number of uploads is around 50 videos? What? And some of them last for hours too. Why? X-Man, I don't have a problem with you, but man, I question your choice in content. How are you not bored of this? Now obviously his channel is geared towards a more younger audience, though with these choices of thumbnails I call that into question. But either way, fans of X-Man will see these videos, and wanting to be featured, they load onto Gmod and just kind of spawn stuff around on a certain FNAF map before uploading the save onto the workshop. Now, is X-Man the sole reason why there are so many FNAF saves on the workshop? In my opinion, no. Most of the saves on the workshop were uploaded way before X-Man started the Going on Random FNAF Saves series. Remember, Five Nights at Freddy's has had a pretty big fandom ever since it first started in 2014. God, has it really been that long? Oh my god. So obviously, some people, especially kids, will create a FNAF related scene on Gmod and then just upload the save onto the workshop because they thought it looked cool, or something like that. However, I do believe this channel is the reason why we continue to see them nowadays. GM Testing Depot. This is a map that can be found on the workshop, and on first glance, there is nothing to see. Literally. The entire map is just a dark void, and decompiling it only shows a pitch black box where the player presumably spawns in at. So if there's nothing special to this map, why do I bring it up? Well, several players have reported finding an empty save in their saves folder that they swear they didn't make. The save is called My First Memories, and the map tied to it is, of course, GM Testing Depot. What's even weirder is that these players have never been on this map prior to finding this save. It just appeared out of nowhere. Looking in the files for the map, there is a Lua file that contains 2 sketchy links that both would have led to different websites. Both of the links are now dead, and there is no archive of either of them. It's also important to note that this map was once removed from the workshop for violating guidelines, and the creator's profile shows that they had multiple VAC bans. This all suggests that there was some sort of malicious intent behind this add-on. It's possible that these sites were used to offload some sort of virus onto the victim's computer, and then that virus would then somehow spread either through multiplayer or through their friends list on Steam. Whatever this virus was, it wasn't powerful enough to cause any real damage to their game or PC. This would explain how the save file was able to spread to so many people, though that's all just a theory, as the creator of the map has never commented on the matter. The corpse player model uses a real-life corpse image. Okay, massive warning for this one, nothing will be shown, but there will be mentions of real-life death. The corpse from Half-Life 2 is one of the default player models that comes with Gmod, and it's generally pretty popular in Dark RP and various horror maps. Though it was very recently discovered that the face texture is sourced from a real-life corpse photo. The original image comes from a forensic photograph, and while I'm not gonna show it for obvious reasons, it's practically the same face used for the model, though the guy's one remaining eye would be photoshopped out. The exact circumstances of how this person died are not known, though it's mostly believed that this was a burn victim, but regardless, man, what the fuck, Valve? Unfortunately, it's not uncommon in the gaming industry for developers to use real-life death imagery as a reference for models and animations. One Mortal Kombat 11 dev was diagnosed with PTSD after they had to watch hours of real-life gore material for the game's fatalities. Though unlike Mortal Kombat 11, this is one of the rare cases where an actual corpse photo is used as a texture for a game. Why is that? Well, Half-Life 2 has been in development hell for 5 years, with the game at one point having to be entirely reworked from the ground up. Many, and I mean many things had to be scrapped, but not everything. I say this cause the corpse model uses textures from an early design of the Citizen, meaning that it was kept all the way until the final release. If I had to guess, maybe no one on the dev team noticed or remembered the origin of the model's face texture until it was too late. Is Gmod dying? Now hold on, put down your pitchforks and hands off your keyboard. Let me explain. As it stands right now, no, Gmod is not dead, and it likely won't for years to come. However, if you look at the current player count, it's not what it used to be. Sure, 40,000 players in the past few months is still impressive, but if you compare that to the all-time peak of 73,000 players back in 2014, you'll realize that the player base has slowly been going down over the years. Not by much, but it's noticeable. As of recently, the closest we got to having that record beaten was in February 2020, but that was around when the lockdowns first started happening. For most players that have stopped playing though, they've either moved on to real life stuff or simply lost interest in the game. Even Garry has moved on from his own game, as he hasn't personally updated Gmod in years and he barely plays it anymore. He instead opted to put more focus on Sandbox, the spiritual successor to Garry's mod, which is perfectly fine. Even if Garry wanted to continue updating Gmod, remember that the Source engine is quite limited compared to Source 2. And don't forget the classic source spaghetti code where one wrong line intending to add a new feature has a very likely chance of bricking the whole game. Yeah, I don't really blame Garry for moving on to Sandbox. As for Sandbox itself, from the looks of it, the game has a lot of promise. I don't have any real opinions cause I still have yet to try it out. Although one problem I noticed is that there is no male 07. Garry, please fix this. But seriously though, the game looks great and it's quite clear that it's a lot easier to mod compared to Gmod. Hell, you can even just recreate other games in this. This game is starting to feel less like Gmod and more like Roblox, just, you know, better. Face Punch Studios wanted to quote-unquote eclipse what is possible in Garry's mod, as said on the About page for Sandbox, and I'd say they succeeded. Though this now leaves Gmod in a very awkward spot since it's quite limited in a modding sense compared to Sandbox. Now yes, the community has demonstrated countless times to be quite talented, with them creating very impressive add-ons, no doubt about that. Though sometimes they come at the cost of a performance hit to the game. With the progression of better computer hardware, this is not so bad now, but yeah. With Sandbox being very mod-friendly and hopefully optimized, what will happen to the modding community for this game? Now obviously there isn't gonna be some sort of mass exodus of mod developers leaving Gmod for its sequel, but I don't know man, seeing what you can do in this game is kind of appealing, not gonna lie. What I'm saying is, if Sandbox truly lives up to the hype, then this might be the end of an era for Garry's mod, with there being a major shift in players, mod devs, and server owners. I could be very wrong about all of this. But I still do believe Gmod will never truly die, as a good chunk of the community will stay behind and help keep the game afloat. I know I will. It is often hard for everyone to let go of something they hold near to them, and that extends to games like Garry's mod. With the game being out for 18 years now, we have all seen how creative this community can really be. From the content creators that made entertaining machinimas, animations, ARGs, memes, and hell, even Let's Play videos, to the countless add-ons made by dedicated modders of the game, such as added models, maps, NPCs, game modes, and more. Garry's mod has no doubt brought a lot of memories to millions and millions of people. Its nearly endless content from the community servers and workshop is the reason why the game has stood the test of time, with people still playing it to this day. But every multiplayer game has to have its own decline eventually, and with the release of Sandbox on the horizon, the future of Gmod is uncertain. Though whether you'll still be playing the game or not, it's worth reflecting back on how this seemingly simple source mod has impacted players like you and me. Think back to all of the times when this game has made you excited, laugh, scared, or even sad at points in your life. All of these moments will forever live rent-free in our heads, all thanks to an accidentally popular Half-Life 2 mod with no real objective. Sometimes, simplicity is all you need to make a game worthwhile, as well as a very dedicated community. If reality was more like Gmod, life could be a dream, but for now, I'll just kick back and relax on the sandy shore of Construct. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I will see you guys next time. And scene. God, if you're all wondering where I've been for these past few months, this video is the reason why. And couple that with real life stuff keeping me from recording audio for this, and yeah, it's no wonder this took so long. But despite all the setbacks, I did have fun making this series, and I hope you all enjoyed watching it too. And while yes, this is gonna be the final part in this series, please don't ask for a part 4. This is only the beginning of my channel, so if you all want to see more of my content, be sure to hit that subscribe button, baby. I appreciate every single one of you for enjoying this series, and as a promise, I'll keep making content that is just as good as the Iceberg videos, with the exception of the few month-long hiatus that hopefully won't happen again. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and again, as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace.